Monday and Wednesday. And you can, of course, upload your response. And I think the week after next week will be our spring break, and that's the time for you to if you miss your written response, so please I make a charge here. Make a charge here, so that you can see how many written response you have done. Okay, so please, please. If I miss to recall any of your written response, let me know. Okay, this is okay. So please, I pause this list on the announcement. So please check it out. If you done for the 16th or something, then fine. Otherwise, please try to make up. Okay. Yeah. Otherwise, after spring break, you may not have much time. Do many kind of tests and prepare for the final and so forth. Okay. And I hope that you enjoyed the class with That's great. Okay, let us move on today. We'll talk about this number 1. Number 8, 9, and 11 first, and before we talk about this one again. Okay? Okay, let us do number 1. Miss Vicky, what do you have?
Well, I grabbed the wrong paper on the way in here, but I think I can remember most of it.
Same, right?
I actually talked about a little bit last time with the Indian pilgrim spots. It's one of the 4 major ones that the Buddha outlined. It's the place where he was supposedly enlightened. It has a lot of different temples there, but the main one is the Mahabodhi temple. How would you say it?
Yeah, Mahabodhi.
Mahabodhi temple. It was actually just recently renovated in the late 19th century, I believe, when it was under British control. But there's also the 80-foot tall Buddha statue there. I looked at a lot of pictures of it, and a lot of different nationalities have built temples around in the area. And of course, there's also the Bodhi tree that's a direct descendant, supposedly from the one that the Buddha sat under. It comes from a sapling in Sri Lanka that was supposedly a direct descendant from the other one.
Yes.
Yeah. I also read, and I think I remember hearing about on the news that just last year it was attacked. 10 bombs were placed around the temple and surrounding areas, 7 of which detonated.
Yeah.
Nothing was severely damaged, but 5 people were injured, including 2 monks. And it was an Islamic terrorist group whose name I can't remember off the top of my head, but there was some damage to the tree and to the temple, but nothing that was too severe.
So it's something wrong with the YouTube today. So again, here's the trees. You watched last time, right? This Buddha tree, this is the most sacred trees in Buddhist view. And many lay people who came there, they wait for the leaf to fall down. They don't dare to look out from the tree. It's because it's a sacred one. And the special leaves. And this is the construction here by Ashoka. Remember last time I told you? Now this what we call Mahabodhi or Bodhi Gaya. This place is administrated by 2 groups, one is Hindu, one is Buddhist monks. Because from 13th century to the late 19th century, the Hindu people took care of this site. And after the Buddhists have the debate and argument and so forth, they allow the Buddhist people to join with the demonstration for religious one. And this is one of the holy, one of the most sacred places. That's millions, not 100,000, but millions Buddhist people come every year. And nowadays around that place is many, or most of the Buddhist country have their own temples, like Vietnam, China, Korea, and so forth. Yes?
How many times do they make that pilgrimage? How many times do they go there?
Depend.
Like once?
Huh?
They go like once a year?
No, it depends on people.
Okay.
Yeah. You like go to Mecca, right?
Mm-hmm.
Go to Rome, and whichever comes you like. But in one particular sutra, I remember we talk about Mahaparinirvana Sutra, remember that? In that particular sutra, Buddhas encouraged the Buddhists go there, to these four holy places, especially this one, at least once in their lifetime. To get married. And basically in that sutra, the Buddha said, even physically he's not there, but he's still there. Plus, some arhat, the holy monks, they're still there, invisibly, that according to that vision. And when you go to any sacred place, holy place, you could feel that kind of vibration, that kind of frequency. And that's why millions of people come to that place every year. Okay. So Mecca is the holy place for Muslims, right? Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Mecca? Right?
Mecca, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And for Catholic people, it's Vatican.
Vatican.
Okay, and how about Christian?
Jerusalem.
Or
I
Jerusalem?
think so, yeah.
Jerusalem.
Okay. So that's people first. Okay, let's just move back again. This is a lot, something wrong with YouTube today. So, okay, I think we'd like to move down here, and we come back here. So this one. Hold on number 8. Yeah, what do you have, sir?
Well, I couldn't find a whole lot, but it was really more about,
Yes.
the reverence between the monarchy and clergy, and the most famous person that they referenced was, of course, Ashoka.
Yeah.
And it was really about how Buddhism really views the political structure as unimportant, but also recognizes the merit of getting along with the rulers. But it was really just about how the Sangha flourished under Ashoka.
Yeah. So the Buddha provide the guidelines for the monastic communities, monks, not to involve to politics. Because whenever you involve to politics, you forget your way. You just play with the power, right? You don't care much about your spiritual part, but involved with power, and this is easily corrupted, right? So that is why most of the times for the Buddhist monks don't involve too much with politics. But doesn't mean that there's no connection between the Buddhist communities and royal families in the past, our government. So the rule is why we know, right? Ashoka is support the Buddhism pretty much, and we study about him. And plus after him, there's several dynasties, like the big Batrian sect and so forth. He is a Greek emperor that controlled the northern part of India, I think in the 4th century BCE, and he became Buddhist. He has a great conversation. There's one particular what we call sutra that talk about his conversation with a holy monks. During his time, he produced coins that have one image of the Buddha and another image of him or It's beautiful. And the next one is Kushana Emperor. That's the place. That's the time. Or the Kashina, Ganishka, the one who organized the 4 Buddhist council in classroom. We talk about that. And the last one is the Kala and Sena era in 9th or 10th century. And that's the last. The last is the support Buddhism. So that's that. There's a Muslim relations. Let's just move on to the next one. China. Who knows China? Taylor, right?
I did gun control. I couldn't remember which one I did, so I went with gun control.
Okay, that's okay.
Okay, sorry.
Christina, is that right? Oh, Joy. Okay, it's a lot. You know, yeah. You study Asian, what is the course with the provider? What's the course? What's the course name?
I don't study Asian.
Oh,
Wait.
with the provider?
Oh, I've taken her class before, yeah.
Oh,
But I'm not.
so who studies some kind of Chinese history, literature, or culture? And what do you think? What do you study about?
The Chinese history,
Okay.
mostly the Han Dynasty and the Three Kingdoms era.
Not much related to religion, right?
No.
Just study about
No.
politics, right? And culture and so forth. So anyway, let me briefly explain to you. So basically, Buddhism spread to China the 1st, 2nd century BC. And it started with the dream of a Han emperor. In this dream, he saw a golden man flying from the west to his court. So when he wake up, he told this man, oh, okay. So some of the say, probably the Buddha appeared in the west, that's in India. So from that time on, he sent many people go to India to study or search for Buddha teachings. So that was as the legend. And then there are many missionary groups, monks, go from India to China. They first start to do translation, the teaching in Sanskrit into Chinese, and up to the 6th dynasty, most of the time here it start from the 5th century. They have translated complete Sutra Pitaka. We studied Sutra Pitaka before, right? The Buddha teaching, and from that time on, and especially during this time, the 5th, 6th or 7th century, the Tian tradition, the Zen tradition, become flourish. So basically, look at the general information from the Chinese history. Most of the emperors support Buddhism in one way or other. So of course, there's some emperors went against Buddhism too, but it's not much. Most of the time, most of the emperors somehow they would support because of Buddhism, the development of Buddhism. That's why remember when they print out, probably start from 10th century. When they print out the Tipika, right, the Buddhist Canyon, right, remember, and many emperors they did by themselves to print the Tipikas so that they can read the merits, or they use as kind of Buddhist text to send to different countries like Japan, Korea, Vietnam, and so forth, as a gift for the other the neighbors countries, neighbor kingdoms. So in general, most of them support Buddhism. Yeah. There's only 3 or 4 occasions that emperors, Chinese emperors, persecute Buddhism. That's in 3 or 4 times throughout history of China. But of course, later on, during the up to now, right? The Chinese communist regime is a different story. We are learning about the history of, the modern history of China.
1951.
Yeah, what's that?
That's when China, stopped one form of Buddhist religion. China did something in 1951.
So what you learn about modern China? History?
Modern China, as we know it, the communist state was founded in 1948.
49.
49. It's been repressive of a lot of different kinds of people, Buddhists, artists, journalists, writers, what have you. But a lot of things are still under persecution. It's gotten better, but
You heard about the Cultural Revolution, right? From
That's the
1966 to 1976, right? You heard about that? You don't know?
that was like the Great Purging.
Uh-huh.
Chairman Mao was actually really good at getting people to like out themselves as like Buddhists or artists or whatever, and he did it by asking them to like submit something to them to like increase their cultural value, but it was really a ploy for him to turn it around and be like, these are the people who are traitors to communism.
Yeah. Yes, that's the horrible times in the modern Chinese history. When you get the Red Door, it went everywhere and to destroy all things that belong to the past, regardless of the religion. Christianity, Buddhism, Taoism, and so forth, they destroyed almost everything. I went to China in 1992, 1993, and heard a lot of story, a horrible story, and you could not imagine. That during those times, most of the abbot is the one who take care of the temples, were put in jail. And not really in the jail, but the thing that they torture them in a horrible way. I met someone, they say that they had people by tying a finger to the city. And they tie people around the course and just let a drop of water to drop down onto their hands. Of course, at first it won't hurt, right? But imagine hours and days and weeks and months. One drop of water is like a stone to hit your hands. That's kind of horrible torture that we could not imagine. Yeah.
Why were they being tortured?
Because they were enemies of the state.
Yeah. The enemy of the state, of the communist state. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so they would not give up their religion or their thought.
Yeah.
The values of what they had. Okay.
Yeah. And I met 2 old nuns. They said during those times they were nuns, but they were forced to withdraw. And during those times when they met them, they let people, but they still follow Buddhism in the way the underground followers. You understand that? But nowadays it's okay. The Chinese communists, they put a lot of money to rebuild Buddhist temples, monasteries, and so forth. For what? Tourism. So most of the time, if you visit China, and if you visit most of the Buddhist large temple, you have to pay the ticket. You have to buy the ticket. Of course, they're free for monks and nuns, but for everyone, they have to buy the ticket. Because they consider religion as the way to control the mass. So they want to control the monastic communities up to now. Well, it's a long story. If you learn modern Chinese history, you know more than that. Anyway, so up to now, they utilize or they manipulate any tradition, not only Buddhism, but also Christianity, Catholicism, and so forth, as a tools to control the mass.
So you said the president controls.
Not the president, the whole party, the whole Communist Party, and you know,
Okay.
you know nowadays even they have what called what do you call it, Great War, right?
Yeah, I've heard of that.
You heard about that? Great War of Internet. Of course, many people like to visit this Great Wall in China, right? But now they have Great Wall, what do you call the internet? So they will block all the informations that they don't want people to see. Any news that may go against the government and so forth, they block them all. That is why the many news that common people couldn't, unless they have their own satellite, unless they use some way to learn about the news out there.
So it's blocked off.
He's saying the internet is
Yeah,
under
internet.
control by the government, and so
And
they
then-
can control what kind of information gets to people.
They have thousands and thousands of people who work on this kind of, like antivirus, right?
Like a firewall.
A firewall, yeah, that's a firewall. And, anyway,
That's also real common in the Middle East. In the Middle East, whenever you log on to a computer or anything like that, if you try to go to a lot of sites, it comes up with a big, you cannot visit this site due to stringent laws by Bahrain national government, things like that.
and well, and up to now, they allow people to follow their traditions. But as long as these people, I mean the religious people, don't say anything against to go against the government, otherwise you go in jail. You go in jail, yeah.
So that's what you mean by they have satellite, like the United States. They beam in over there and say, okay, I see this guy doing this, you know. So they use the satellite, right?
But of course for the rich people, not for the common people, you know. Anyway, so this is politics. So that's now what happened nowadays, and I know that's they control the Buddhist monastic communities too much in China up to now too. Even they give them the freedom to practice religion, but they put them in control. This is still country. Okay, one thing I want to mention about Chinese Buddhist history, this particular emperor, the Wu of Lian, in the 6th century, he's the first emperors that became a monk. But later on, he look at here. He forced several times. He became a monk and forced his court to purchase him back with substantial offering to Buddhist cleric. He's really devout Buddhist. And remember, I told you about the story of Bodhidharma and him. Remember that? Remember? So when Bodhidharma came there, because he's sincere Buddhist, he said, well, you know, I built hundreds of Buddhist temples. I support thousands and thousands of Buddhist monks and nuns. I print all kinds of sutra and so forth. Do I get merit? And Bodhidharma said no.
Why?
Why? And later on, Bodhidharma explained, that kind of merit is for you when you're still inside of the birth cycle. But that's not so helpful if you still have stress, if you still have an anxiety, if you still have desire and so forth. So in Buddha Dharma views, Yes, of course. This emperor, he created the merit, but the merit that he could use or could enjoy in samsara and in Buddhist view, in the ultimate views, does not have much. Make sense? So the goal for the Buddhist is to achieve enlightenment, to get out of the reverse cycle, to be free of mental afflictions. That's why he said no. Make sense? Right? So, many millionaire or billionaire people, they still suffering mentally, right? They have a lot of stresses, a lot of anxiety and so forth, to take care of this and so forth. So that's what he did. And there's one particular thing about him too. Now, he, this one here. His queen somehow didn't like Buddhism, so she did a lot about this. That's go against Buddhism and other people and so forth. So basically, according to legend, after she passed away, she reappears at a big snake, what do you call typhus, is that right? Typhus. And she cried at night for help to her husband, that's been this emperor. And later on, he reported this problem to a holy monk. And so that holy monk, he wrote a thick books that we call repentance books to repent the karma for his queen. So this is famous, and in our Chinese, Vietnamese Buddhist temple, we decide this one. That's the way how we repent our karma about habit. Yeah.
Is he the one who was destroying like Taoist temples?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah, because he's so extreme. He is extreme to the point that I cannot imagine. That's when the foreign armies try to invade his country, and in the court he decided sutra. So that is the way, according to him, this is the way he could dispel them. I think it's so extreme. So anyway, so it's just only emperors that become monk, and sometimes, sometimes it's extreme. But of course, for the Chinese Buddhist people, they consider him as a Chinese Ashoka. Of course, he didn't do much like Ashoka, but that's why we brought about it. Okay, so let's go back here. And there's one, number 10.
Yes.
Yeah, what do you have there?
I have this. It was really hard to find anything on Tibet.
Yeah.
The Buddhism Tibet is organized according to a traditional hierarchy. The supreme position is occupied by two lamas, either a Grand or Dalai Lama, or Panchen or Bogo Lama. Before the Chinese invasion of the area in 1950, both lamas theoretically had the same authority. And next in the rank were the Hashdakas or whatever. After that, you have the Bodhihova. I can't say these words.
Yeah.
Anyway, they're the ones that have help you to reach enlightenment. They're also called higher clergies, the member of which are guarded as incarnations of the Buddha saints. The lower clergy is recruited based on theological prophecies, and the lower clergy has four orders: the novice, the assistant priest, the religious person, and a court teacher. A member of these must take a vow of celibacy, and then that's pretty much all I could find on that. And then as far as monarchy, in Tibet, I found Tibet is ruled by China, so they're not a monarchy, but I found Bhatan, is that how you say it? They're outside of Tibet. It's a small kingdom outside of the Himalayas between India and Tibet. They became Buddhist in the 19th century, influenced from Tibet. The monks ruled the country since the beginning of the 20th century. The country's king is one of the only two Buddhist monarchs left in the world. The other one is the king of Thailand. Bhutan is dotted with numerous monasteries housing large numbers of monks and have considerable influence in governing the country. Majority of the population practice Buddhism. Also, they have a constitution now, and for modern times, the government has a constitution, and it pretty much says that you can have freedom of religion. The citizens can be they're free to do any thought, conscious of religion. No person should be held by another faith and means of coercion. So pretty much you can be, like even southern parts of the country is Christian religion now, so they're all kind of mixed up there, and the government says as long as you adhere to the normal, the country's previous history, you can be whatever religion